Okay, so basically, there's no problem with your methodology, but I would like to try to make it easier for you, to make
Yes.
things simpler, because basically the process looks very long. Okay,
Mm.
okay. So what I am going to do is that I am going to suggest to you, but at the end of the day, it's up to you. So we discuss to see how it is possible. How can we make it very clearer? Okay, now when we uh, try to construct the methodology, okay, there are three different aspects. Okay, is my voice clear?
Yes, clear, Prof.
Ah,
I try to find a note.
it's okay. It's okay. You
Yeah.
can actually you can just listen to me, okay?
Yeah, yeah,
Because
Prof.
this is all recorded, and similarly, I will post to YouTube, okay? That you can refer back after this, okay? So basically, the first thing that we want to do is that we want to be able first to convince ourselves that we are clear on the things that we want to do after this. That is number one, to convince ourselves.
Yes, Prof.
Okay, number two, basically, uh, it must we need to anticipate those who will evaluate your work.
Mm.
Okay, so basically, okay, sometimes okay, when we appoint, for example, there are two levels of actually two different evaluations that you will go through. The first one will be your proposal defense. For the proposal defense, okay, basically there will be a committee. Okay, once you submit your application for proposal defense, the committee will appoint two different evaluators or assessors that will comment on your proposal defense. Okay, now that particular actually um, evaluators is not appointed by me.
Yeah.
Uh, those who the committee think that is suitable. Okay. Okay, now the second part, during the actual viva, okay, I will appoint the examiners. Okay, but a committee has a right to actually to overrule me. Don't worry about don't worry about your kids. So it's okay, because Dr. Abdul Aziz is here.
Yes, welcome. Good
So,
morning.
yeah, because now what we are going to do is that I'm going to advise on our friend here on, because he is going to submit application for proposal defense. So so what we are focusing on the methodology,
Yes.
so that the methodology will be acceptable. So that is the focus here. So for Abu Bakar, inshallah we will discuss tomorrow. But yeah, we welcome everyone to give their thoughts. But the focus will be on this particular PhD candidate, Dr. Abdul Aziz. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So basically, secondly, okay, the examiners, okay, may have different views on the methodology. Okay, and sometimes we cannot anticipate what's in their mind. So when we form our methodology, we must try to anticipate. First is that we try to actually form our methodology so that it is most probably will be acceptable to most. Okay, so will be acceptable to most anyone, to almost anyone. So that's our strategy. Okay, okay, that is okay. And number 3, basically, the practicality of implementing the methodology itself, because sometimes, you know, we can have a perfect an ideal methodology, but at the end of the day, it will take us 5 years to finish the the research, because the process will be very long. So we need to be able to anticipate all this. So those are the 3 things that I'm thinking of. Okay, now the first thing is that what I would like to suggest to you, after you have the ones that you have given to me, your recommendations, my initial view is that it's like this is a long, the process is very long, and my concern is that it will take too long for you, and it will be a burden to you. So we will try our best to make it very clear and simple. Okay, the fine details, we will think of this later on. Okay, okay. Let me give you my view of my proposal to you. So, but at the end of it, it's up to you to decide whether this is the things that you want to do or not. Okay, now the first part of your methodology is that you are going to create your own model, right?
Yes, Prof.
Or your own framework or your own model. Basically, the concept of smart banja is actually, the concept initially comes from the banja concept. Okay, banja concept is basically a traditional concept, okay, based on the heritage of the people in Bali.
Yes, Prof.
Okay, now the problem, we are going to go back just to recap. The problem with the banja, because now things are moving forward, okay, basically in the new normal, okay, whereby we have pandemic, we have so many things, okay, we need to be able to incorporate ICT, the technology, so that this technology can be actually integrate nicely with the banja concept, so that it can actually achieve the target or the objectives that you want to achieve with this new concept. So this comes that you are going to actually propose a smart banja framework. That is the initial idea, right? Okay.
Yes, Prof.
So when you started with the smart banja concept, the first thing you do is that you go back to the literature review. So what you did was actually, first you look into what is the banja concept itself. Okay, because sometimes the banja concept is not may not be properly documented, because this is like a traditional thing. It is not too clear in terms of publication and so on. So what you actually are trying to do is that you actually try to visualize the traditional banja concept itself in the form of papers, and so what are the elements, what are the aspects, this is the traditional thing, and how does it work within the traditional means, because this part of your review will contribute towards the background, the overview of your research. Okay, the first part, normally this will cover in chapter 1 and chapter 2. Okay, the next thing, when you actually Dr. Abdul Aziz asked about what does the banja concept means. Okay, you may want to actually explain to Dr. Abdul Aziz.
Yes, Prof. I will try.
Okay.
Okay. The banjar is the traditional heritage just we just have in Bali. The Banjar itself come from the 10th centuries. Come from the 10th centuries. From the structure of the government, the Banjar are below the village government. The village government. Banjar have the residents. Their residents, their society perceive the traditional things and also the economic things in their whole life. Maybe like that, Prof.
So basically, Dr. Aziz, this is like this Banjar, the word Banjar, this is actually a structure, structure within the society in Bali, specifically in Bali, right? Not in other parts of Indonesia. So basically, this is very traditional, meaning that it has been like 1,000 years, 10th century, right?
Yes, 10 centuries.
10th century. So meaning that this is like not 100 years, this is 1,000 years. Okay, whereby this Banjar organization or society, the structure, actually this is like it governs how the society interact with each other. It also actually have a major influence on how people in Bali, okay, interact in relation to the economic factors and so on. So basically, this Banjar is very traditional in nature. Okay. Now, the issue is actually because the Banjar is a very traditional concept. So the way things are done is very traditional. And suddenly, because lately, especially during this pandemic and so on, this COVID-19 and so on, there is suddenly a need to advance this Banjar concept so that it can adopt technology, so that this technology it does not replace the Banjar concept, but it actually works together with the Banjar concept to achieve as a synergy to achieve something that is greater than what can be achieved without technology, and also better than if we use technology without the Banjar concept. So we want the Banjar and the ICT to be integrated in such a way so that it can synergize the society, okay, in a great way. Okay, and that is the purpose of his research, is that to create the concept of the smart Banjar. Am I saying this correctly?
I want to add some information, Prof. Although the Banjar structure is very old things, but in some regions, some district, the Banjar itself become modernized. Like we said the building, every Banjar have a building. We call Balai Banjar, Balai. In some tourism area, the Balai Banjar is developed as not just interaction the people about traditional things, but become like supermarket, like automatic teller machine, like everything come modern. If the needs of the place, like tourism areas, the Banjar will do the adaptation. But the principle of traditional thing, like the residents do their what is that called, do their kewajiban.
Obligation.
Yes, their obligation to the communities like that, still perform.
So basically your research now, because of course the banja is actually a big concept, we are focusing on some elements, right, based on the objectives. Remember that we discussed, so can you actually just highlight the objectives? I can hear you. You are mute.
Sorry. I share the screen or just say what our objective right now?
Yeah, the objectives.
We have 3 research objectives. The first one is to identify elements that form the smart Banjar concept. Number 2 is to develop the framework to allow the synergy of micro-enterprise and microfinance within the Banjar structure to support the community's economy. The last, number 3 is to adopt it and adapt it ICT tools for the operationalization of the framework as proof of concept.
Okay, so now basically the focus of this smart Banjar concept within this research, we are focusing on the synergy between the micro enterprise and microfinancing, right?
Yes. Yes.
That is the main focus. We are not focusing on education, and because of course there may be so many other aspects of the smart Banjar, but our focus for this research is on the synergy between micro enterprising and microfinancing with regard within the Banjar concept. So that is the focus. Okay, so basically when we go back to the methodology, the first part is that we need to actually deconstruct everything. Deconstruct meaning that we want to find what we call the elements. What are the elements within this smart Banjar concept? So basically, this will be based 100%. Okay, initially for version 1, this will be 100% on the literature review. So that is the beginning. So basically, what you need to do, okay, in the methodology, because basically at the end of the day, when you explain, people want to listen to your story. So meaning, what do you want to do? So methodology is actually, how are you going to do this? So you tell your story. So basically, the first thing that you will do is that you have to identify. First is that what are the, because the problem starts with Banjar, right? Banjar. So basically, what are the elements within the Banjar concept itself? Okay, the traditional Banjar concept. Okay, and then you are going to identify what are the elements when it comes to trying to propose the smart Banjar concept. So basically, this is where you will study various literature, and some models are more prevalent. Okay, meaning that are more actually highlighted than other models. Basically because when we want to create this framework, this is more of an adoption framework, meaning that we want to adopt technology to an existing structure. But of course, adopting technology is not just take technology and put this inside. It's not like that. So meaning that there will be a re-engineering. Okay, we need to re-engineer the structure. We need to retain and respect the existing structure, but at the same time, we need to open to some things need to change. Okay, some things need to change because we must allow technology to play a role in this. Okay, so this is like a re-engineering of the banja structure to form a smart banja concept. But at the same time, the banja will exist as is, but we have this one new concept that will give an alternative to the people of Bali, whether you want to retain in the old ways, or perhaps this is a new option that can actually contribute a lot, something new. Okay, so okay, the first part, okay, literature review. So what you need to do in this literature review, I think that you have done so, and you will continue to do so. You need to find the elements. Okay, so for the adoption, okay, for the banja, what is the banja concept? So you need to actually try to actually, if you can, come up with a diagram, like a model. So this is the traditional banja model. So because people will be able to see better if you can somehow come up with some form of like a diagram. So what are the elements and so on. Okay, for the traditional banja. Okay. Now, at the same time, for when it comes to the adoption of technology, okay, I do think that the TOE model with T is technological, or organizational and environmental, okay, is actually plays a big role, because I see the compatibility with the problems that you try to solve. So what you need to do is that you need to look into the TOE, okay, deconstruct TOE, because TOE is very general. Okay, so when you go into the TOE, so what are the elements within the TOE that perhaps you can add so that it is compatible with the banja structure? So this is part of the, you can see that you need to deconstruct. So deconstruct meaning that to identify all the elements. So this is where literature review. So you have this table and you have compare, okay, for example, from various models, various literature, you identify many elements, and at the end of the day, you have a systematic way of how do you choose the elements. So sometimes the elements are, there are so many elements. How do you choose these elements to form your framework version 1? Okay, so that is the literature review, the first one. But in general, the concept that you've given in your, when you post the WhatsApp, okay, this is correct, meaning that based on literature review, you construct your initial framework. So, but that is the process. Okay, that is the process. So, number one, I don't think that is a problem, but you need to base on the literature. Okay, that is, let's say I put this as step number 1. So, I'm going to do this sequentially. Okay, just top to bottom. Okay, number 1, construct initial framework. Yes.
Can I show the diagram so we can discuss more better?
Yes.
Okay. Do you see my screen, Prof?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. See, this is phase 1. Okay, now, this phase 1, this, we do not call this preliminary study. You know, we don't use the term preliminary study. You know, preliminary study, okay, normally people do this study before they decide that this study is acceptable as a research. Something that you do before. Before. Meaning that, for example, let's say that you do not have a problem. For example, yeah, because in research you need to start with problem statement. Let's say you do not have a problem. So you are trying to go and interview some people, asking that, okay, is there a problem? So then you get people saying that, yeah, we need this, we need to have this framework. So there is a necessity for us to have such a framework. Okay, you see, once you get, oh, there are many people saying that, oh, it is important for someone to create a smart banja framework, meaning that to justify that, that is preliminary study, meaning that something that you do before. Okay, but phase one, normally this is just the easy way to do this is just put as this is phase number 1. No need to explain what is it.
Oh, just phase 1.
Phase 1. Okay, phase 1 is in general construction of the initial framework. We don't use
Initial framework.
Initial framework.
Yeah.
Version 1. Initial framework. Or framework version 1. So normally we start version 1. Version 1. Okay, now framework version 1, okay, what you do is that based on the literature, you come up with framework version 1. That's it. Framework version 1. Okay. So basically, normally we do not, no need to actually put in the research design and methodology development. I think that is, you can remove that. No need to focus on that. You just start with that. Okay, first, you literature review. Your method is literature review. And from the literature review, you construct framework version 1. Framework version 1.
Yes, Prof. We
Okay.
continue.
Now, this is where, next one, this is where I think that I want to recommend some changes here because it looks very long.
Okay, Prof.
It looks very long. Okay. Now, framework version 1 is based on 100% literature review. Okay, now, any framework, okay, and remember that basically your main contribution, the main contribution for your PhD is the framework. Okay? Okay, now,
Yes.
after you have created this framework version 1, you have 2 options that you can do. Okay, this is, I want you to think about this. Okay, first option is that, okay, from literature, you may want to interview, perhaps, okay, this is data collection, you want to interview some people in this, ask about something, okay, asking about something, so that they can actually offer you some more input, some additional input, in addition to the ones that you have highlighted based on literature review. For example, interview, you can have some discussion with some people, okay. And once you have these interviews and so on, so there are some additional information that you think, okay, you may want to change or add some other things to your framework version 1. So once you have added this, it becomes framework version 2. Framework version 2. Meaning that framework version 1 is 100% from literature review. You don't interview anyone. But after you have this framework version 1, okay, you may decide to, for example, you go and see someone who you think that can give you some input, show this framework version 1, and these people will actually contribute some ideas on what can be added, what can be changed from this version 1. And if that happens, it becomes version 2. That is one thing. option number 1. Okay. Option number 2 is that, okay, this is from the literature review. Okay. Okay. And just now, when you have, just now, the option, the previous option, option number 1 just now. Once you have, let's say, version 2, you add something. The process of that interview itself, this is part of like the first level of data collection, which will be your pilot study. So meaning that from the literature, and then you do some interviews and so on. They give you some ideas on what to add and so on. So you have some changes to the framework, it becomes framework version 2. Now the process of what you did, that is your pilot study. Pilot study.
That's pilot study, yeah.
The pilot study. Okay. Okay. Once you have done the pilot study, okay, now your framework version 2, actually basically there is no tool, no instrument. This is just more of conceptual. So meaning that you have the diagram, all the concepts, without, you haven't developed anything yet. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So basically, you need to do validation. Remember, because the framework, before you create instruments, you need to validate. So you do the validation. So basically, this is phase number 3. So the validation will be phase number 3. Remember, phase number 1 is you construct your framework version 1 based 100% on literature review. Phase number 2 is that you conduct pilot study. Okay, pilot study can be in a form of survey and so on. It's up to you. Okay, you can do a survey, you can do a questionnaire, you can do interview. Okay, you can do focus group discussion to get some other ideas on how to make the framework better. Okay, so this is phase number 2. And the outcome of phase number 2 is framework version 2. Okay, now once the framework, you have this framework version 2. Okay, now this will be your main contribution. You need to validate this. Validation. Okay, so the process of validation, okay, this will be phase number 3. Okay, to validate, there are many ways to validate. So normally, but similarly, the process of validation a concept normally is a qualitative validation, meaning that we will look for people we consider as experts in this field. Can be academician, can be people from, like you say that, because this relates to your micro enterprise, microfinancing, somebody from the, perhaps the government of Indonesia, or people, you know,
the ministry,
some important people, okay, who has a stake and knowledge in this. You can do this validation. Expert, they will give their views. Okay, they will give their views. So you can do a Delphi method. Okay, the process of Delphi method, and I think Dr. Jawahir has done that. So you can ask her how to do this Delphi method, or some other method that is more traditional in okay. Delphi is quite new. Okay, so basically the third phase is validation. So we validate the framework. Okay, and once you validate the framework may or may not change. For example, if after the validation, the experts will give their views and perhaps some recommendations on what need to be changed. So basically, if there is no change at all, the framework will remain at version 2. Okay, and if there are changes, for example, some addition based on this expert, so your framework will be version 3. So version 3 will be after the validation. So when they validate, doesn't mean that it is 100% like that. They may need, the experts may recommend to you some changes, and you may consider the changes. So once you actually consider the changes, you make some changes, the framework will be version 3. The version 3. Okay. Okay, now, like I said, the option number 2, this is option number 1. Option number 2 is basically after the literature review, you have framework version 1, you decide no need to actually conduct qualitative pilot study. You go direct to the validation by experts. You go direct to the validation by experts. So meaning that your phase number 2 in the second option is same with phase number 3 in the first option. Meaning that you from literature review, you have framework version 1, you direct go to the validation. But if you ask me, okay, that will not be as strong as the first option, because the first option you have literature review and then you conduct interviews and so on to get some other views on what other elements should be included or so on, and you can consider their views, and this becomes version number 2, and only then you validate. So meaning that there is a literature review, you have a qualitative study from interview, that will be framework version 2, and then you validate. Okay.
Yes,
that will be stronger. Your research will be more stronger compared to the second one that I suggested. Okay.
The option 1 is stronger than option 2.
Yes, because because the option number 2, you just from literature review you validate.
Oh, okay.
But this one, you the first option, you literature review, okay, then you conduct some qualitative study, perhaps interviews and questionnaire and so on, to get feedback from the people, and this will inform you, oh, I need to add some other new elements here, or and so on. Meaning that it's not just literature, it is qualitative study, a pilot qualitative study you add toward to the literature review, and this become framework version 2, and this will be you send for validation. So this will be a better option for you. But at the end of the day, this is something that you need to think about. Okay, now this is phase number 3, validation. Okay, once you have validation and you have framework version 3, okay, what you need to do is that now you need to be able to show that your actually framework is practical. Okay, because basically most examiners will say that, okay, you can come up with anything on paper, but how do we know that it is actually working in terms of the ideas? How do you get this to work? So
proof of concept.
Yes, this is proof of concept.
Yes.
So for the proof of concept, this is where you can conduct action research. Action research, okay? Meaning that for proof of concept, from the framework, let's say you have framework version 3, you want to...
After the validation, Prof.
Yes, after the validation.
Okay.
After the validation, and once, if the validation, you think that there are some changes, so framework version 2 will become framework version 3 after validation. Yes. Okay. Now, based on the framework version 3, so you need to actually think of some tools or some instruments, because everything is on paper. So do I need to create a small portal? Do I need to create some ways that using ICT, okay, that can actually operationalize everything, meaning that the concept on paper we can transform that into something that is actually practical, something that people can actually benefit. For example, let's say that you say that the micro enterprise and micro financing ini, you may want to think of, okay, how do I create something using ICT so that it can actually be able to achieve whatever that you want to achieve. So this is what we call a proof of concept. So basically what you need to do is that you need to create what we call instruments. So we call everything is instruments, tools.
The ICT is the tools.
Yes, you perhaps it is like, even for example, a social media group is also a tool. Can be a tool, a special group, or perhaps you want to create a special portal, okay, so that can allow some form of transaction between A and B, party A and party B, and so on. So at the end of the day, you want to create something, okay, because your framework is on paper, but the framework is concept, big concept. But when you go into instruments, that is you go into more detail. So for the concept of how do you actually connect between micro enterprise and micro financing? Okay, these are two different areas. Okay, micro enterprise, micro financing. So what kind of mechanism, IT mechanism that will allow this? So basically you will go detail, and when you create this, definitely I'm sure that you will not create this just sitting at your laptop, just create something. No, it's not like that. So basically you need to go to the people who will be involved in this. Okay.
Yes,
and of course when you develop something, you need their input. This is where action research plays a role. Meaning that they are the, for example, when there is involvement in microfinancing, definitely there are people who has the authority and so on. So how can you work together with these people to come up with your own version of microfinancing for the micro enterprise, okay, within the Banja structure. So basically these are the elements that you actually use action research, okay.
Yeah.
And normally and what I'm thinking for your PhD research is that the action research part, okay, will be, the purpose is to actually achieve the proof of concept. So meaning that the proof of concept is that your particular ideas in the framework can be actualized in real life using ICT, and you can actually create something. But to create something, you need to work with the stakeholders. So this is action research. That is.
Can I ask some,
Yes.
Prof? So if I need to explain the ICT tools that I want to build in the action research way, I mean that maybe in the number 2 action planning, I explain about the design of the tools, and after that, in the action taking, I explain about the implementation of the ICT tools. After that, we evaluate, we specific learning, and
Okay.
come to the iteration like that, Prof.
Okay. So basically, general, that is the theoretical part.
Yeah.
Theoretical part, the idealistic things to do with action research. Okay, but in general, when you have your, let's say, PhD, Viva, you will be given only 30 minutes to present everything. Okay.
Yes,
So
Prof. Yes.
what's important, okay, my concept, and I think that most examiners will not be very particular about this very specific, number 1 diagnosing, number 2 action planning, number 3, they will not be concerned about that. They, at the end of the day, they want to see, have you achieved or not. So the process of like action research is basically the concept. Okay, I put is in the big concept is that you when you want to create something, okay, you work together with the stakeholders. So that's
Yes.
the concept, meaning that the stakeholders will have a say, will have an input on what you do or what you should not do.
Yes, Prof.
Okay, now this is different between case studies. So I want to differentiate between action research and case study. Okay, for example, case study, your role as a researcher is that you will observe those, for example, the people that will be using whatever it is. You will observe without you influencing them. But for
Yes.
action research, you will influence the people that will be benefiting from what you will do, and the people that will benefit will influence you in what you want to do. So basically, it's like a two-way interaction between you and the stakeholders in coming up with a solution. Okay, so meaning that this is actually basically action research is basically similar to when you in a development project. So basically,
Yeah.
it's not that we have to actually ask them, so is this what you want to do? Okay, this is what they want, and you also give your views. Okay, we cannot do like this because this is the problem, so can we do like this? So at the end of the day, when there are common agreement between these two people, you and the stakeholders, to come up with something, that is action research.
Yes,
Okay,
Prof. Yes.
so what I'm actually suggesting to you, okay, this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, these steps, use this as a guide. Do not make it like something that because I've not finished number 2, I cannot go back to number 3. At the end of the day, it does not matter. What's important, the you know, the concept in action research is that there is a mutual interaction between you as a researcher and your subject matter, which is the subject. The subject will be the stakeholders. You
The
will work
stakeholders,
together to come up with something, and this something is actually something that will show that your concept that you highlight in the framework is actually can work in real life. So that is actually the action research that I want you to highlight, meaning that you work together. Okay, you work together with the people, the stakeholders, to come up with a solution. That is the process of action research. Okay, now this is different between case study. Case study meaning that you create, if case study, you create something, you create on your own. You don't get information from them, and then once it is finished, you show to them, ask them to evaluate. So that is case study. No, there is
Yes, Prof.
very limited interaction, but now this is like a lot of interaction. So work together with the stakeholders, okay, to come up with a solution, ICT solution, based on your framework.
Yes, Prof.
Okay. So basically, that is the stakeholders, and this is the part where you implement the action research. So basically, phase number 4 will be concept, will be proof of concept, whereby you use action research methodology. So if the examiners or perhaps the assessors, evaluators ask you, okay, can you explain about what actually you do? Okay, so basically what you do is that, okay, now at phase 4, okay, you are going to actually create instruments, okay, based on ICT that actually reflect the framework, and these instruments will be detailed to show that this particular concept works, and the process is using action research because you will work closely with the stakeholders. Okay, so you identify the stakeholders. Okay, the stakeholders, and you will work together with the stakeholders to come up with the ICT solution. So that's why this is action research. Did you get that?
Yes. So maybe in the diagram about to explain the methodology, I no need to
Yes.
visualize like this.
Yes, no need.
Okay. But in the explanation, maybe I said that the pace of the action research is start from diagnosing, action planning, etc., but not limited to that. Like that, Prof?
Uh, I think for the proposal defense, because we are talking about proposal defense, right? At this point of
Yes,
time,
yes, proposal defense.
proposal defense, is that I think it is sufficient just to say that you are going to actually use action research. That's it.
Oh, that's
Yes,
enough, Prof.
yes, because basically you see that this is phase number 4. You remember when you have even proposal defense, you are given like 30 minutes. That's not a lot of time. So because you definitely you will take time to explain about the concept of banja, the concept, and there are many things that you want to explain. So when it comes to methodology, I think it is sufficient to say that, okay, for phase number 1, this is phase number 2, you explain phase number 2, phase number 3, validation. So how are you going to conduct validation? Okay, phase number 4, so this is phase number 4 is proof of concept, whereby you use action research. Okay, you use action research as the main technique, action research as the main method or technique. Okay, and in this action research, you will work together, okay, with the stakeholders, to come up with the ICT solution that conceptualize the framework itself. I think that will be sufficient. And the most thing that they will ask you about, okay, can you tell us who are the stakeholders, and you can give some of the stakeholders that you have in mind. Okay,
Yes, Prof.
Okay, this kind of people. Okay, this is from the for the microfinancing part, for the micro enterprise. So who are the stakeholders that has this? So you will work together with them. Okay, so I think that will be sufficient. The process itself, even you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or even because even action research, there are so many different views of the step itself. It's not one view. Okay,
Yes,
so I think no need for in the proposal defense for you to go like diagnosing, action planning, and so on, because
Okay.
it will be very, but just conceptually, in just generally you just explain. So this is what we do. Okay, I'm going to work with these people, that they will actually the stakeholders will be identified. Okay, some of the stakeholders maybe at this point of time you haven't decided yet, but perhaps some of them may be, for example, the head of microfinancing in I do not know. So basically you can, if they ask you can explain about this.
Yes, Prof.
Okay,
I see.
and once you have this, okay, because now you work with these stakeholders to create the solution, and finally, lastly, okay, definitely you want to test, to get some people try out this particular solution, right? because some of the micro enterprise, mungkin some businessmen, some people, some micro entrepreneur, some people who involved in this business, in this banja, try to get people to use this your solution. Okay, and this will be the final phase 5. Okay, whereby perhaps some small business owner, you get a few try to use your solution, and here you can do a questionnaire asking them, do you think that this is helpful, this is this beneficial to you, is it easy to use, okay, and so on. So meaning that does using these ICT tools that you create, or this solution that you create, is better than not having one, and so on. So basically that will be the last part. So you see that.
So my research, I'm sorry, Prof. The methodology is the mixed method, sir.
Basically, this is not mixed method, because basically, if mixed method, okay, if mixed method, it is there is a statistical. This is a statistical, and there is qualitative. That's mixed. Okay, now your part, although I say that we do a questionnaire and so on.
Yeah.
Okay. We don't consider that as quantitative per se, as statistical, because okay, if statistical, you need to do a survey whereby you need to make hundreds of people doing the survey, which is, I don't think that is what you want to do. But the final part, phase 5, will be like a case study. Case study meaning that once you have created the solution, you will try to get some business people, okay, some micro enterprise owners, to try out your solution and get their feedback. So meaning that it is a questionnaire. You also have a graph and so on, analysis, how many say good, how many say not so good, and so on. But it does not generalize to the whole population of Bali, because you are not going to do that. So basically, the final part will be a case study. A case study meaning that you will select, okay, you will select several business owners to try out your solution. Remember, phase number 4 is to create the solution. That is actual research, to create the solution. And phase number 5, to get the actually micro enterprise owners, the business owners, to try out the solution. That will be a case study, because for them, it's just that there's not, you don't ask their input on the solution. It's more of to see whether using your solution is a good outcome for them, to see whether this is good and so on.
I'm sorry, Prof.
Yes.
In the phase 4, we do the action research. In my understanding, the action research is the micro enterprise owner, the microfinance, not just object of the research, but they become a subject of the research. So while I do the action research, creates the instrument, the solution, they will give their feedback. Give their feedback to build the solution together. So after that, we get their views, we get their feedback. So we can conclude that we have conclusion that the solution is better for them, like that, Prof.
Okay.
Why do we need the phase 5 like
Okay.
to survey there?
Now I'm quite asking you, because this is basically based on what you can do. Okay, now when you actually work with the stakeholders, are you working with many stakeholder, meaning that, or just one? Okay, for example, for action research, you can just choose one. For example, let's say you want to work with micro enterprises, business
Yes.
owners. You, for action research, it is sufficient for you to work with one business owner. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, you work with one business owner to create. But once you have created that, you want to ask other business owners to try this out. You can involve others. So that will be the case study. That is an option.
Okay.
Okay. So these are the things. It depends. Okay. So because sometimes, you know, I give you example. Actually, who's the co-supervisor? Dr. Bazila or Dr. Shanmuga?
Dr. Bazila.
Dr. Bazila. Okay. Dr. Bazila is not here. Okay. Okay. I want to actually share with you, okay, Dr. Shanmuga, what he did for his research. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So, okay, actually, his research is to create an e-commerce model, especially for Cambodia. Okay. So, actually, what he did was, when he created the solution, okay, he actually worked with, for example, the fisheries department, because this is e-commerce, the fisheries department, agricultural department of Cambodia, meaning that there are some people there, and perhaps, and he also, as part of the farmers itself, when creating the e-commerce portal to get information, he selected, there is like 1 or 2 farmers in Cambodia when he is creating the solution. Okay, now once the solution has been created, okay, now that the process is action research. To create that, the process is action research. But now once he has created that, so he want many more farmers to try out his solution.
Okay.
Including those who are not involved in creating the solution in the first place.
I see.
So that is the part
Prof.
of the case study. So meaning that he did get quite a number, but still not enough to generalize to the whole of Cambodia. Okay, but he get a number, but I consider that as a case study. So this is when that Dr. Shanmuga was, this is his PhD. I was the chairman of the Viva. So basically, that is what he did. Okay, so basically, if you, like you say that phase 4, you combine those, you action research at the same time, those you work together and they say okay, that is an option which is acceptable. Okay.
Yes.
But a better option is that when you create the solution, it is easier for you not to work with so many people. Okay. Just
I
to
understand,
get
bro.
those people who you think that can contribute, just work with them. And after everything is finished, when you want to try out, get more people who are not involved in the creation of the solution, just get them to try out. So that is this is similar to like, okay, when you want to develop an information system, okay, when when development, you will work with some people, okay, but once this is ready, you want to do user acceptance testing. This is like UAT, user acceptance. You get many others. Okay, try this. So what is your feedback? So basically, their role, the phase number 5 is just to try out and give their comments, and perhaps they will, what you are looking for is to say that they think that this is good. This is the thing that perhaps something that you can consider. But at the end of the day, how easy it is to do, whether you want until phase number 4, okay, or phase number 4 and number 5. Okay, this is based later on when you do it. When you try to do it, you will see these different problems, and we need to actually see whether how best can we move forward. So should we do like just phase number 4, or can we do phase number 5? Okay. Are you here? Everything is freezing.
Prof, I'm sorry. Okay.
There is connection problem.
Hello, Prof.
Can you hear me? Everything is frozen.
Hello, Prof.
Can you hear me now?
Hello, Prof. I'm
Yes,
so
yes.
sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
The electricity is off.
Okay. Is everything okay now?
Okay, I'm so sorry, Prof.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, Prof.
Okay. So basically, now what I want you to do, okay, no problem, because basically, okay, when we put the methodology, okay, for the proposal defense, okay, this is this is our planning. This is a planning, okay. So later on, if we think that we need to change because of the situation changes, and we think that we need to do some changes, then it will not be a problem for us to change.
Okay, Prof.
So what I want you to do is that for the meantime, okay, this is my recommendation to you, my recommendation, but at the end of it, it's up to you. My recommendation is to have this 5 phases. Okay, phase number 1. Okay, phase number 1 is to create initial framework version 1 based on literature review. Phase number 2 is that you will conduct some form of qualitative pilot study. Okay, perhaps you want to interview, get some other views, so that you have additional ideas or information that you can add on top of your framework version 1. Perhaps now it becomes framework version 2. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, yes. Phase number 3 will be the validation of the framework. So for the validation of the framework, you need to find some experts. Okay? Perhaps you can consider the Delphi model, and I think Dr. Jawahir is quite knowledgeable and experienced in this Delphi model. You can ask her. Perhaps you can consider that. Phase number 3 is validation. Now, phase number 4 is that proof of concept. So, phase number 4 and number 5 is proof of concept, whereby phase number 4, for you to construct the solution itself, meaning that you want to create the instruments, you want to create the tools, and so on. Meaning that when I say instruments and tools, is the ICT instruments and tools. Okay, to create that, whereby you use action research, whereby you will work together with some people, okay, so that you can create this particular instrument. Okay, and once you have created that, number 5, phase number 5 will be for you to deploy and to test based on case study. Case study meaning that you will select several micro entrepreneurs and so on, or some people to try out. Okay, now to try out, okay, basically you can actually add some people who are not involved in the creation of your solution itself, get them to try to use this and try to get their views, and that will be phase number 5. So your research will be these 5 phases, and you ask whether this is mixed method. This is not mixed method, this is qualitative, because you can see that everything is more of, although you may at phase number 5 you may do a questionnaire, but you don't consider that as a survey, because survey will involve many respondents, many like 100, 200.
I said the tools, the technique is do the questionnaire, have a questionnaire, but not a survey, like that, Prof?
Yes, questionnaire within a case study. So meaning that case study,
within the case study,
it's a case study, but you can have a questionnaire. So meaning that you get people to try out the solution and you ask some question. Meaning that when you say case study, we don't expect you to have 100 people using your solution. We don't expect that, but we expect some numbers like 10 or 20, meaning that not so many, to try to actually to use your instrument. So that is what we call a case study. And a case study meaning that you will choose people based on some criteria, okay, because you want to see that you see there are even micro entrepreneurs, micro enterprises, business people and so on. There are different kinds of people, okay, and you may want to actually to choose what are the criteria for you to choose the people to try out. Okay, so basically that is one option that you can use, but at the end of the day, don't worry. So later on, if we find that it is difficult for us to proceed with one method, we can always change. What's important now is that at least for your proposal defense, you have some idea, some quite a clear idea of what you want to do from the beginning until the end. And believe me, okay, this planning will change based on my experience. Things will change because sometimes when we come to one problem, oh, it's difficult to do this, then we will discuss, oh, what can we do next. So don't worry, because basically those who are in the proposal defense may not be the examiners later on. The examiners will be different people. Okay, so what's important at this point of time, for you to be able to show to in your proposal defense that you are clear here, okay, in your mind, that these are generally the things that you want to do. Of course, the detail part, you will come to that. This will, when the time comes, you will detail out. But at least generally, you can see the phases. What are the steps? And meaning that from phase 1 to phase 3 is the validation of the framework. Meaning that that is the framework, and that is contribution to knowledge. That is your part, contribution to knowledge. And phase 4 and phase 5, when you come up with the ICT solution and you test this on those who are involved in this, that will be the proof of concept, and that is contribution to practice. So meaning that you will have 2 contributions and very structured. 1, 2, 3 is for contribution to knowledge, and 4 and 5 is contribution to practice.
Yes.
So it's
So
clear.
the framework version of mine is framework number 3 after the validation.
Sorry.
I can conclude that we have 3 version of the framework.
Yes, 3 version of the framework. Maybe 4, depends, because sometimes when
after the validation.
because sometimes perhaps after phase 4 and phase 5, you have a feedback, some other feedback from those who use your solution, and they think that there are some other elements that should be included. So it is always possible for you to have framework version 4, which is the final. Possible.
Yes.
It is possible. So what's important for you when you present in the proposal defense, for you to be able to explain to them, clearly, phase 1, this is what I want to do. Phase 2, this is what I want to do. So this is phase 2 is I'm going to use a pilot study. So basically the technique is based on qualitative techniques such as an interview. I'm going to use interview, perhaps focus group, depends. Depends, and so on. And this, their feedback, their input, I will actually you will sort of improve framework version 1, it becomes framework version 2. And once I have framework version 2, so I will proceed with validation. So how are you going to do this validation? For example, let's say that I'm going to use a Delphi method for this validation, whereby it will involve several stakeholders which are experts in this particular area, for example, and this will actually their feedback and validation will become the framework version 3. So this is the framework, and once I have framework version 3, so next is that in phase 4 we are going to create instruments and solution, ICT solutions, which will be operationalized the framework itself. We need to show that it works, it can work. So for you to be able to actually create this solution, so you will use action research method, whereby you will work with some people who involved in as a stakeholders to come up with the suitable ICT solution for different parts of your framework. That is using action research. And once the solution is ready, you want to test this to a selected number of people in a case study. That is phase number 5. So meaning that this is like user acceptance, whereby you get as a case study as several people who will try out your solution, and from the feedback, okay, basically we will see whether your solution work, and from the feedback also you can see whether if there is a necessity for you to improve the solution itself, or perhaps to improve the framework itself, meaning that it can contribute to the improvement of the solution, which is the proof of concept, or perhaps maybe there are proof to the improvement of the framework. But I think it is unlikely to improve the framework itself, because the framework is something that is very big. It's more of the improvement of the solution. So most likely your framework will be until version 3. Okay, but
Yes.
maybe it can be version 4, but most likely
Yes.
it will be until version 3.
3.
So your method will be qualitative. It's not mixed method,
Yes.
because although there is a questionnaire that but it is still a case study. So a questionnaire in a case study, we don't consider that as quantitative, but there are some quantitative techniques that we incorporate into a case study. Okay, but it's not mixed method, because mixed method we expect for you to actually have like using SEM, use factor analysis and so on, which we do not use that. Okay,
Yes,
so
Prof.
your research is actually qualitative in nature, but there are some statistical, actually, especially when you in phase 5, okay, we do a questionnaire and we want people to actually to comment. So perhaps that will also be some quantitative. And if you use for validation, Delphi method. Now Delphi method also incorporates some quantitative techniques within this,
Oh,
because
Delphi method.
later on when when Delphi method, when you give questionnaire, there is also questionnaire, they will rate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and so on, and there is a way for you to process that, to calculate that. I think this you need to ask for Dr. Jawahir to advice from Dr. Jawahir how to do this. Okay, because there is statistical techniques within qualitative, but it is not enough that this statistical technique is not big enough. It becomes mixed method. It is still qualitative, but there are some statistical techniques that we use in this qualitative. Okay, so it is different from mix.
But if I find I little bit worried, Prof.
Okay.
But if I find the method of data analysis that's qualitative in nature, I can do with that technique, Prof.
Okay, for example,
I forget.
is it during validation?
Yeah, during the validation. Maybe we have some data analysis in the qualitative way.
Yeah, that is also possible. It's up to you. So like I say that validation, there are many ways of doing things. Delphi method is one way, but it's
Okay,
not
Prof.
the only way. But what's important is that, okay, now when you do validation, okay, the proposal defense, they may want to ask you, okay, how are you going to do this validation? So you need to actually to study, to prepare. Okay, so for example, in phase 3 validation, so how do you conduct your validation? So what technique that you are going to use for validation? So basically, at proposal defense, they want to know that.
Okay, Prof. Okay, Prof.
Okay.
I will try.
So basically, yours is qualitative. Okay, it's not mixed method. It's qualitative.
Okay, Prof.
Okay, so I think if you can actually our discussion, if you can put that in a form of diagram, it would be clearer to you, and it will be very helpful, especially when proposal defense. You can see everything like phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, phase 5, and you can explain in your PowerPoint, on your PowerPoint. Okay, that will actually be favorable to you during the proposal defense.
Okay, Prof.
Yes. See, this is all the literature review. You can see that there is like so on. This is the things that in that is will be in phase 1.
Yes, I have tried to write about the you said before about the initial framework. So this is not preliminary.
Yes.
Okay. Before I explain about I adapted from Andari and Ella. That's the smart city concept can be started from the smallest scope. Okay. So I start from the smart Banjar. I adapted from the 4 smart village concept because the smart Banjar none about the smart Banjar.
Okay.
So I try to find the nearest scope is a smart village. Okay. So I use this for research. Okay. After that, I explain about the framework they built. This is Ramachandra is from the India, and this 3 is from Indonesian. Okay. That's more appropriate to my research. Okay. After that, they built a collaborative model about their smart village, and at the end, I try to explain this is my version number 1. Okay. I adapted from those literature review.
Okay. Okay. So basically, one thing that if possible, for you to actually, if it's possible to add in your framework version 1, is that like I said before, because at the end of the day, many of the evaluators, will actually look for not just from literature, but they will look for the main model. So for example, like say you want to use UTAUT or TAM, because this adoption of technology. Okay, so basically, if possible, you can look into how you want to come up with your the model itself. Now this is your model. Okay, but how does this relate to TOE? Okay.
I just implicit said that like this fishery bird is from the context of environmental from the TP framework. I just implicit said.
Okay, this. Because you implicit, so I want you to put this explicitly, because at the end of the day, they want to see that how does, for example, your framework, this is your framework version 1. How does this relate to TOE? For example, if you choose to have TOE as the main theoretical model. Okay, TOE is theoretical model. Okay. Where is the T? Where is the O? Where is the E? Here. Okay.
The T is this.
Yeah, I know you show this here.
Okay. Okay.
But how do you design your framework to show that this is the T without you explaining? For example, because now this is implicit. Implicit meaning that only when you explain, people will see that there is TOE here. But for when you propose your model, because when when you have a model, sometimes you you do not have a lot of time to present, because
Okay, Prof. Yeah.
so you will need to try to show as much as possible where does this come from. Okay, for example, you might say that this is basically, this is consistent with TOE, but where is the T, where is the O, where is the E? How do you actually design
Okay.
here to show that this is a T, this is, where is a TO? Because it's not explicit here. So this, you need to actually be creative on how to highlight the different areas or dimensions of TOE within your framework, so that you can say that, okay, no, now it is actually based on, of course, like you say that you study different concepts as smart village in India and so on, basically based on that, but at the same time, it actually based on the very theoretical model, the IS theoretical adoption model, such as TOE. Okay, for example, and where is it? So you need to put this explicitly, so that once people, the examiners or the evaluators see your work, they can see that, oh, this is the T, okay, this is the O, this is the E, for example, or this part is the E, this part. So how do you do that? So do you need to do the lines or color code, or this is, you need to be creative in how you want to actually explain everything, because I understand implicit, but put that explicitly. How do you put this explicitly? Okay, so you need to be creative on this. Okay, but
Okay, Prof.
I think the methodology, based on our discussion today, I think it's quite clear. And do not worry, okay, do not worry if, for example, what if, for example, at the end of the day, I find it difficult to implement 4 and 5, phase 4 and 5, phase 5, I need to merge 4 and 5 become 4. Don't worry about that. So when the time comes, we will discuss again what is the best option. So what's important is that at the end of the day, it is clear to everyone that the way that you implement your research is actually systematic. It is rigorous meaning that you take in consideration many things. It is systematic, and it is able to achieve the objectives that you highlight initially. So that's what's important. So if they are happy with that, you get a PhD. And of course, they want to see that your work is unique. It's unique. Unique meaning that it is something different, something new. And of course, when something new, it must also be based on existing theoretical model, which is now, that's why it's important, I think it's important for you to highlight that it is actually based on TOE, but it is a different, you expand, okay, you expand in the form of towards the Banja, towards this specifically micro enterprise and micro financing, how it interact, how it synergize each other. That is what you want to highlight actually.
Yes, Prof. Yes, Prof.
And I think if you can put this in a proper way, I think you will be confident in your presentation. But having said that, evaluators will always have something to comment.
Okay.
They will comment because they are smart people. So we respect their knowledge, and we acknowledge that actually this is what we think is correct at this point of time. But we accept. So I think in terms of proposal defense, I think for any evaluators, it's not about for you to be perfect. No, we don't expect you to be perfect, but at least we can see that you know what you are going to do, and the things that you are going to do is like, okay, this is possible, this is acceptable, and I think you have a very good chance to achieve the objective. So that is what the evaluators want to see. But at the end of the day, yeah, they will comment many things, but
Yeah.
that is
Also.
normal, right? So you have to
Yes, Prof.
have a thick skin, thick skin. People say things that sometimes very hurtful, but okay, we accept. People will criticize our work.
Yes.
That is what PhD is all about. Okay.
Okay, Prof.
Okay, so if you can do that, okay, once you are ready, you can actually tell me, and we can try to find some time again to look into that, and once we are happy, you can actually submit for the proposal defense.
Yes. Maybe I want to faster than before. Maybe 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, no
Prof?
problem. So
We do-
yeah, what you need to do now is that, okay, for proposal defense, okay, what I want you to do, okay, of course, you can apply for proposal defense, but I want you to prepare a slide, a PowerPoint slide, show to me, because
Yes, Prof.
I want you to present to me first, because basically,
Yes,
okay, when you put into this chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, and so on, basically, sometimes if you do not present this, you cannot see the problems. Okay, so what you need to do now, okay, the first thing you need to do, okay, forget about writing all this detail. This can do later, because once
Okay.
do a presentation, do a PowerPoint presentation. Okay, your PowerPoint presentation will be 30 minutes. You will be given 30 minutes. So try to put in what are you going to present in 30 minutes.
Okay, Prof.
Okay, and do it. Once you are ready, please tell me, because starting from next week we will start our lectures, okay, our normal semester with the undergraduate. So basically,
Okay.
uh,
You are more busy.
so I will not be as available to you as like now, but if you can complete that as early as possible, what you need to do now for me is to prepare a presentation slides, PowerPoint.
Okay, Prof.
30
Okay, Prof.
minutes presentation. Okay, 30 minutes presentation. So what do you want to do? And we have this meeting again. You present to me, so I'm happy, then should be okay.
Okay, Prof.
Uh,
Okay, Prof.
Okay. So
Okay.
now very, very good. So hopefully that I will publish this, and I will share this to the others, because others may have some of the, they can listen to our discussion, and perhaps they will be able to get some ideas on what
Okay,
need
Prof.
to be done for their own for their respective proposal defense. But of course, everyone research is different. Okay, so may be correct, may be possible for you, may not be possible for Abu Bakar, for example. Okay, but at the end of the day, these are different options of how we can approach this. Okay.
Okay, Prof.
Okay, so
Okay, Prof.
I'm looking forward for you to have that. So if you can have that as early as possible, that will be the best.
Yes, Prof. Thank you so much, Prof.
Okay, so all the best to you, and of course, we appreciate Dr. Abdul Aziz and Dr. Jawahir to be here later on. We actually, Dr. Abdul Aziz, do you have any advice to Dewa?
No, thank you first. Thank you, Prof. And thank you, Mr. Dua, and also Dr. Jawahir. And so appreciate your invitation to this session, because actually from day to day we get more knowledge from you, Prof. And I'm very happy to be a part of your team.
Yeah, and Dr. Jawahir is a doctor now, so she needs to help others to also to get doctorate like her. So this is my hope. Okay. Okay, so thank you very much. I will see you again And I will post this once I have updated this the video. So I will share the video to the group. Okay.
So, Prof, I have only one question about
Yes,
about risk assessment.
Ah.
Can we consider, for example, if we do risk assessment on a certain organization?
Okay.
Can we consider it as a case study research
based on organization?
Yes. For example, I'm planning for example, to do a risk assessment for, let's say, my bank. Risk assessment for my bank.
Okay.
Can we consider such research as a case study research?
Yes, case study research. But if you are talking about PhD research, that's not sufficient, because basically, when you go into, for example, like say that, let's say you have University Kuala Lumpur. University Kuala Lumpur is an organization, right? So if we, for example, we do a research just based on the problems within University Kuala Lumpur, then that may not be a sufficient scope to be acceptable as at this level of research. Okay, like for example, like Banja, the Banja organization. So the Banja organization is basically, that is like a very traditional 1,000-year organization within the society in Bali. So it is actually a very like 1,000 years old. Okay, and it's not just an organization like University Kuala Lumpur. This is like the whole structure of the Bali people. So meaning that if we are to tackle something at that scope, that would be acceptable for PhD. So Dr. Abdul Aziz, it depends on when you do research. What's the purpose of that? For example, if for example you do a case study on this, let's say bank, ABC Bank, if that is for the purpose of proof of concept, which is the part to show that this works, okay, that would be okay. But the scope itself should not be just that particular ABC bank. Perhaps you can say that banking in Malaysia, for example, that would be the scope. But when you want to actually, you create something, a solution, sometimes it is not possible for you to try this, your solution, to every bank in Malaysia, right? So basically what you need to do is that, it's not possible, so you will die first before before the research will be finished. Okay, so what we can do is that, okay, let us create a case study whereby, okay, now I have created a solution, this solution, a framework, a solution, and so on, based on the banking in Malaysia. But to test this, we cannot afford to test every banks, but we select several banks, okay, for the case study as a proof of concept, to show that this framework, this solution can work in this particular bank. So if this can work in this particular bank, it is not impossible that it can work in other banks. That is proof of concept. So if that is the concept, that is acceptable for you to choose this ABC bank. Okay, but your research must not, scope cannot be ABC bank. It must be larger. For example, banking or Islamic bank in Malaysia. That is a big scope. But when you want to try this out, you can select as a case study to try the solution. This is similar to what Jawahir has done. Basically, when she actually, because her research is based on this disaster, to assess the use of data in disaster management. But her scope is actually disaster management in Malaysia. But once she created the solution, she tested the solution not in everywhere, because cannot afford to do that. But she selected several organization to test the solution for the proof of concept. So that is one possibility that we can accept.
Okay, Prof. For example, if we selected, let's say, my bank or CMB bank, so is it possible to generalize the result on other banks? What is the criterion that
you cannot generalize to other banks. A case study, you cannot generalize to other banks. What you can do is that, for let's say that you test this, you see that, this is a case study involving this particular ABC bank. I just give a general ABC bank, this one bank, ABC bank. So you will not claim to say that this will work to all banks, but you can say that this is successful, good results on ABC bank. What you can claim is that in your conclusion, in your discussion, that if it is possible that it is suitable for other banks with similar characteristics with this ABC bank.
It's like a
yes, that's the purpose of case study. So case study, you see that when you say that it works on this one, meaning that it other banks that have similar characteristics with the bank that you choose for the case study is suitable for that. But you don't claim that is for everyone because you do not know. You can see that now. For example, one just to share this current issues. You are aware that now there are several vaccines available. One of the earliest is Pfizer vaccine, and I think even in Indonesia, we are concerned that we hear news that there are like 20 to 30 people, elderly people, died after a short time after taking this Pfizer vaccine. I've read Indonesian people, because they are start vaccinating now. I think the President Jokowi has actually the first person in Indonesia to take the vaccine, but this is a Chinese vaccine, I think. But there is concern because a Pfizer vaccine, although they say that it is safe, but now there are between 20 to 30 people who died. And their study to say that, they died because these elderly people, they have lots of diseases. They have comorbidities, meaning that they have high blood pressure, they have a heart problem and so on. So what happened is that when they take the vaccine, there are side effects. Although the side effects is for normal people like us, it's like we have a slight fever, then we recover. But for these elderly people with lots of diseases, their body cannot stand it, so they die. Now you can see that now when they do the testing for the vaccine, if I'm not mistaken, one of the criteria for those who are involved in they say that the third phase testing, one of the conditions for you to volunteer is that you must be healthy. You must be healthy. And they don't allow people with the age of like 70, 80 to test. They will say, between 18 to 50. Only they take those from 18 to 50 with no medical problem history to participate in the testing. So this is what happens. So basically, based on that particular testing, everything is okay. They say, there's no, it's safe. But now, when in reality, the people who are 80 years old with lots of diseases take, and there is side effect. The side effect itself actually is dangerous enough to kill actually those who take the vaccine. So it can form some danger. So that's why, okay, when we do the testing, what we can see that the solution, our solution in our conclusion, okay, the solution when we use case study, the solution has a high possibility to be beneficial to, for example, to the banks with similar characteristics. Okay, we do not claim to generalize these similar characteristics. Similarly, for example, for Dewa, for the Banja, let's say that phase number 5, like I say, case study, right? We don't test on everyone, but we test on several based on specific characteristic. So your conclusion later on will be that, okay, your research finds that this solution, the ICT solution and the smart Banja concept can be beneficial, okay, for you do not claim to all because that is generalized, but you can claim to the, okay, for the entrepreneurs or the business people or the community with the similar characteristics with the case study. So meaning that there is always, we do not claim that it works for everyone. Okay, so that is something that when we are using qualitative like this, we cannot generalize. So do I answer you, Dr. Abdul Aziz?
Yes, okay, Prof. Thank you so much.
Okay.
One more question.
Yes.
Please, just is the risk assessment research could be related to information system domain or no?
Risk assessment, that is the risk assessment itself is is it a technique or is it the focus of the research?
I mean, for example, if we try to study the risk assessment of cloud-based services, let's see people now using many cloud-based services. Actually, there are some risk behind these services. What are the suitable research methods that we can use to investigate such issues?
I think in terms of risk assessment is very much on software engineering.
Software engineering.
Yeah, software engineering. Risk assessment is not, if you are talking about domain area, risk assessment is more of software engineering. Okay. Yeah, it is software engineering risk assessment because there are different models on how to measure, how to assess risk within any particular project, whether it is software development project or is it a cloud computing project or whatever. But the process of risk assessment is part of software engineering. That is the process.
So means it's different methodology. It's not like information system methodology.
It is software engineering. It relates to information system, but in terms of the, if you write a paper to publication, it is more towards software engineering because that is part of during my master's degree. So I did learn because my specialization for masters is software engineering. So risk assessment is one part of the process within the software development. Okay, so when we want to develop, especially when we have the IT project, there is risk assessment. But in UniKL, at the end of the day, Dr. Abdul, it does not matter because at the end of the day, if this is a PhD, we don't have PhD in software engineering or PhD in IS. We have PhD in IT, and IT encompasses everything. So it does not matter. So what's important that if you want to focus on risk assessment, just focus on risk assessment. Okay, regardless of whether it's software engineering or anything, but what I can say is that risk assessment is in project management. Okay, it relates to some elements. It relates to software engineering, and it also can relate to IT project management. It depends on where you look. For information system is normally within the IS itself. We do not focus on risk assessment, but at the end of the day, like I say that whether this is just grouping is not important, so it doesn't matter. So if you want to focus on risk assessment, just focus on risk assessment. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether it is IS or it is SE. It doesn't matter actually.
Right.
Okay. So I hope to see you guys again. So hopefully Dewa will have some very quick progress so that we can have another discussion.
I hope so.
Okay. So basically, Dr. Aziz tomorrow, actually at 10 o'clock. So I will set for Abu Bakar. Because we are going to discuss on the papers. He has written a paper to send for the conference, and perhaps there are other things that we can discuss related to his research. So if you are available tomorrow 10 o'clock, so looking forward for you to join.
Inshallah, right.
Okay.
Inshallah. Thank you.
Okay, see you guys.
Thank you.
Okay.
Take care.